Right then, welcome to a video that I really wish I didn't need to make, but sadly the time has come that it's necessary. Over the last few years, the quality of products from major companies in virtually every sector has decreased. From Cone's hideously flimsy and temperamental modern lifts,
going down, doors closing, doors opening, going down, doors closing, doors opening, going down,
to Wanzel's modern automatic gates that can barely last 5 minutes before playing up. And of course, plenty of modern hand dryers that can barely last 5 minutes too. Here at AirDri, we strive in making durable dryers. As you can see, our dryers are just some of the most reliable on the market, and when they are working, they sound incredibly healthy. That's AirDri. This isn't just from the cheap Chinese dryers that you don't expect to last this long. Oh no, we're talking about some of the biggest players in the hand dryer industry, which are still selling these dryers at high prices. So in this video, I'm going to be covering major companies that have had their reliability go crazily downhill over recent times, in order from the least severe cases to the most. So first of all, we'll start off with AirDri. AirDri used to make high quality dryers that were built to last back in the early days and into the 2000s. But in recent years, AirDri have gone completely awful. Really, AirDri need their own videos, there's so much to the story, but for reliability downfall, the main dryers to be talked about are the Quad/Quasar and Quantum/PureDry. Both of these releases are fairly recent, and neither have ever been particularly reliable. However, since AirDri began phasing production over to China the other year, they have both gone from unreliable to diabolically unreliable. First, let's look at the Quad/Quasar, which both use the same motor that supposedly has a 17,000 hour motor life. Just for reference, the MacFlow Plus with a 20-year warranty has a 5,000 hour one. This first video is how a healthy Quad/Quasar is supposed to sound. Now let's go to Tesco Newmarket Extra, which has an August 2021 quad in the baby room, and have a listen to how it sounded in 2023. And finally, this is how it now sounds as of February 2025. Doesn't sound like it's gonna last 17,000 hours, does it? I have some more examples, but I don't really want to drag this video out on an unimportant company. Now looking at the Quantum quickly, which shares the same motor as the PureDry, this video of a 9-month-old unit should tell you everything you need to know about this £700 dryer. This heavy dryer's just scared the living shits out of me. Listen to this. I could probably go on for absolutely ages about the Quantum, but AirDri may well get their own video in the future. So now let's move on to the next company. Dyson are the next company I'm going to talk about, although their downfall is nowhere near as bad as some of the other companies. Dyson originally started out with the ABO1 and then ABO3, which were absolutely amazing dryers that would go on for a very long time. Sadly though, they then moved on to the ABO6 and ABO7, and then the AB14. All of which do not all match the quality or reliability of the OG air blades, with them reusing vacuum cleaner motors that aren't intended for the high usage that the OG air blades could withstand. Because of this, AB14s are often seen failing far earlier than you would expect when placed in the high traffic locations that they were marketed as being suitable for. I'd be happy that these were discontinued if it wasn't for the 9kJ that replaced them, which is crazily priced, and has reliability very much comparable to the PHS Airstream. Firstly, here is what a Dyson 9kJ is supposed to sound like. And now, this is how a large proportion of the 9kJs across welcome break sites sound after a maximum of 2 years in service. Yeah, that's really not good, is it? Luckily, most places opt for the Dyson HUO2, which is a decently reliable, although not physically durable dryer, although it's excessively priced and appears to have gone up even further each time I look at the Dyson site. Dyson are likely to eventually discontinue the HUO2 to try and push businesses using it over to 9kJ, which really isn't going to end well given that most places will blindly install Dyson dryers presuming they're the best. And no, Dyson, you clearly do not care about the environment one bit. Now we're starting to move towards some of the more significant downfalls, with PHS Group being next up. PHS Group owned Warner Howard before they merged the brand into PHS Warner Howard in 2020, and have made quite the assortment of their own dryers over the years, with the two main eras being UltraDry and Airstream. The three dryers in the UltraDry line were the original one, the UltraDry 2, and the UltraDry LE, although the LE seems to have just been a rebrand of the two. None of these dryers were ever built from the core for reliability, and often failed in nasty ways. However, the majority of these dryers have lasted a good number of years, and many are still in service today. It's worth noting there seems to have been a quality drop at the end of the UltraDry's production run though, since the final units haven't lasted anywhere near as long as the earlier ones. We're currently in the PHS Airstream era though, which is a line of hand dryers that launched in the late 2010s and has picked up popularity across many major chains in recent years thanks to contracts. As we all know, the Vitesse and Pure are marketed as being suitable for high usage environments, when all it takes is one step into the toilets at a major service station to realise there's normally at least two dryers out of service, and all but one or two of the rest have bad startups. Also, these dryers sometimes fail absolutely nastily. Also, the array of hand dryer models is a bit of a nightmare, as not only are there 4 main Airstream models with feature overlaps, along with a fifth that was discontinued when the Vitesse Comfort joined the main line, there's also the million overlapping models in the EL/MR/SR/SM series. Despite that mess though, the managing director of PHS Group amazingly got 2 of the simplest models mixed up in a promo video that still somehow made it to YouTube. Just look at this.
For the ultimate hygiene and fast throughput, the 11.4 second dry time HEPA filtered air of the Airstream Vitesse, HEPA filtered air of the Airstream Vitesse.
Moving on from PHS, who could probably also do with their own standalone video, we're now moving to other companies who've had more significant and depressing downfalls, with HOKWANG being next up. HOKWANG used to make really high quality dryers, however models like the EcoFast saw moderate reliability hits in the 2010s, and the EcoHygiene has just never been a durable dryer, both of which are very prominent if you look at Tesco stores. Sadly though, the HKJA seems to have been a more recent hit, as since the slight refresh in 2017, which involved the motors being slightly toned down and given gradual startups, it seems they've cheapened out on either the power supplies, controllers, or both. As since this refresh, the most prominent point of dryer failure has been them failing to run with a blinking red light on the front, rather than failed motors. Failed motors do still occur, however it's a far rarer point of failure than it used to be. As you'll soon see, cheap power supplies and electronics are very much a pattern in this industry downfall. Now we sadly have to move on to World Dryer, with their downfall affecting basically their whole line of dryers. Back before the 2000s, the Model A was an incredibly robust dryer that would live for a very long time. However, after they moved production of their hand dryers off to China, the reliability of these became absolutely awful, to the point that they would only last a few years before sounding horrible.
Sounds rough.
The Model A was discontinued back in 2023 though, and hasn't been relevant for quite some time, so let's focus on the models that are relevant, Air Force and VerdiDry. The Air Force is infamous for being one of the least reliable hand dryers in the community, and whilst they have indeed never been overly reliable, the decline to durability we're currently at has only happened over COVID, although the true reasoning behind what's happened is unknown. Production of Air Forces, and presumably all other World Dryer models, was moved off to Malaysia in 2024, with the reasoning behind this likely being due to the quality decline in China, since most air forces were failing within warranty. Some people have already jumped to the conclusion that the Malaysian air forces are no more reliable than the Chinese ones. However, the true durability of this is yet to be discovered. Due to how many businesses in the UK are moving away from Air Force, I get the feeling that it may be discontinued in the not too distant future. Touching on the AirDri quickly, the first generation units don't seem to be overly reliable, as not only do you see countless combos in America of V1s and V2s where the V2 has clearly replaced a failed V1, there's also some instances of failures in the UK, like the V2 that replaced a 2017 V1 at Leon Bankside, and also all the V1s at Lewisham Shopping Centre, which were replaced with PHS Airstream Pures after under 5 years in service, which was as a likely result of multiple failures. There are a couple more AirDri V1 replacement examples I could list, but I don't think it's really worth going through them all. The true reliability of the AirDri V2 isn't really known yet. Now we're moving on to other companies that I really wish a quality decline would have never happened to, which is unfortunately XL Dryer. The older accelerators were incredibly robust and durable dryers that rarely failed prematurely. However, sadly, since the transition over to the new controllers and motors around 2016 time, everything has begun to go downhill. These new controllers have an LED placed in the sensor window, which can flash codes when there's various issues with the dryers. This sounds like a good idea until you realise out of 9 of these fairly vague codes, 7 will cause the dryers to completely stop running without any way of a facility staff member overriding this to determine if the dryer is actually still functioning correctly, leading to plenty of dryers flashing codes for silly little things that the traditional accelerators would have just ploughed through. This leads to premature dryer replacements, as it's not worth ordering a part as the XL dryer site suggests. In addition to this being a poorly designed system, I suspect that the electronics utilised for this may be of somewhat low quality in an attempt to keep production costs down. Given that XL Dryer, a designer and manufacturer fully based in the USA, it's perfectly understandable that costs need to be cut where possible. But the problem here is they've been cut on a little PCB that can just straight up say no to letting the rest of the dryer run. Since the system is poorly designed in the first place due to vague codes and no manual override, I think the best way for XL Dryer to continue short term would be go back to the simple electronics used in early accelerators, whilst retaining the soft start that's needed to ensure the longevity of these modern motors, which seem to be pretty robust. Another possible solution is to integrate an internal switch that allows facility staff to override the current error code system, as it would allow for manual diagnosis, but ultimately the error code system needs to be redesigned from the ground up using higher quality electronics, given that I suspect this is a contributing factor. Finally, let me cover all the examples I have of modern accelerators prematurely failing, in no particular order. Firstly, we have the longest accelerator story, which is about the ones at Springfield Outlet Village in Spalding. 2 accelerators which I believe were UK6 were installed in the main male toilets a few years ago, along with a singular accelerator in the main female toilets a year or 2 later. One of the male accelerators failed in 2022 and was replaced with a UK75 accelerator, presumably under warranty. When I came here in August 2024 though, I found that the other UK6 accelerator had also failed, but was presumably out of warranty this time, since it was replaced with a second-hand Air Force from somewhere which was ironically over 5 years older than the accelerator it replaced. The Springfield story doesn't end here though, as on that same August 2024 visit, I was informed by a female relative that the singular accelerator in the female toilets had failed too, as there's an out-of-service sign on it, leading this site to have a 100% accelerator failure rate in no more than 5 years. The female accelerator is likely to be replaced under warranty, however it's incredibly unlikely that any new ones will be installed here in the future. Next we have BP Dis, which is a mid-traffic petrol station that opened in 2019 with UK69 accelerators in all toilets. The male toilets with 3 sinks oddly have 3 dryers instead of the 2 you'd normally expect for this size, so the last thing you would expect is an early failure here, surely not. Welp, one of the UK69 accelerators in here of course failed in 2024, since I found it at the start of August flashing an error code. How convenient that it failed just outside of warranty. Staying on the topic of BP, We'll now go to BP Newmarket A14 South, which was most likely refurbished around 2019 too, since it was given a new design but also new accelerators. As of me visiting here in February 2025, I found that one of the dryers in the male toilets had failed and been replaced with a Blue Dry Eco Dry, and also that the accelerator in the accessible toilet had been replaced with a Blue Dry nozzle dryer, which was built at the end of 2022, meaning it's likely to have been here for almost 2 years. Now to Newmarket Road Park and Ride Cambridge, which had 90s AirDri Classics replaced with UK 6.7 accelerators a few years ago, and surprise surprise, the one in the male toilets has already been replaced with a UK 7.7 Accelerator Eco. Keep in mind that these toilets are fairly low use too, and don't we get any vandalism. Finally, NCHLT briefly mentioned in his end of year 2024 hand dry video that the recently refurbished toilets at Kenwood House had accelerators installed, but one of them was replaced with an Accelerator Eco within a few months of the new toilets being in service. Now we sadly move on to what is possibly the most catastrophic and depressing reliability downfall within the entire hand dryer industry. We've already covered XL Dryer though, so what other company could it possibly be? It couldn't possibly be Mitsubishi, could it? Well, it very sadly is. Let me explain. Mitsubishi have always been renowned for making some of the world's fastest and most reliable hand dryers, and have been for many decades. But in 2021, things began to go really downhill, specifically with the UO2, which was previously known as the Smart. Prior to 2021, these dryers were incredibly robust and reliable machines, however, seem to have changed this year, as ever since, almost every Mitsubishi UO2 has started making horrible whiny noises within the first few months of being in service, with this never being a problem on older units. Let's first have a look at 2 examples of how UO2s are supposed to sound. Pay close attention to the shutdowns mainly. The first clip we look at is of a UO2 that was built in April 2023 and was filmed just 2 weeks after the place opened and in a radar locked toilet, so this dryer had received very little use prior. It's worth noting that the other toilet dryers in the other toilets here have since deteriorated. Next we'll look at another healthy UO2 which was built in 2019. This video was filmed in 2022, but the dryer had still been in service for over 2 years at this point and still sounds just as healthy to this day. Now we've looked at what these dryers are supposed to sound like, let's have a look at the countless rough units that have been made post-2021, once again in no particular order. First, let's have a listen to a UO2 made in September 2021, which is in a low to mid-traffic M&S accessible toilet, with this clip being filmed in November 2024. It's worth noting there are also paper towels in this toilet, further reducing how much the dryer actually gets used. September 2021. It's 145 months ago. Just listen to it now. That is not normal. Now let's listen to how an April 2024 UO2 sounded when filmed in November 2022 at Sainsbury's Longwater, with it only been in service for a few weeks at this time. Whilst the main shutdown doesn't sound too bad, pay close attention to the high-pitched squealing at the end of it. Brand new dryer. That sounds bad. Hang on, listen to this again. Corridor's good. Listen to this again. The dryer is brand new and that is the shutdown. Absolutely pathetic for a company like Mitsubishi. Now to another toilet at this Sainsbury's store, which has a UO2 of the exact same build date and was filmed straight after the last video. This one doesn't have a squeal, but does have a light grinding sound at the end of the shutdown. Sainsbury's Longwater also has a UO2 in the main male toilets, which was made in March 2023 and installed in March 2024. This dryer has deteriorated significantly throughout the year it's been in service, and I have 3 videos that perfectly showcase this deterioration. The first was filmed when the dryer was brand new in March 2024, the second was filmed in November 2024, and the third was filmed in February 2025. I do apologise for the final video's quality not being optimal, however it was a risky film. Now replace another PHS warmer house. Right, this Mitsubishi now sounds really bad. Listen to this. Like, no Mitsubishi is supposed to sound like that. Now I've looked at plenty of rough UO2s, along with there being a couple more I couldn't film due to them being in risky metal toilets, you'd think this is where Mitsubishi's durability issues end and that the IO1 is unaffected, but oh boy are you wrong. The female toilets at M&S Norwich had a new IO1 fitted as a replacement of a jet towelette a few months ago, which can be clearly heard outside due to doorless toilet entry. This new dryer sounded perfectly fine for the first couple of months, however the motor is sounding more like it's more strained each time I visit, with the shutdown also sounding pretty bad. In previous times I would have just put this down as a one-off, as I did with the first dodgy UO2 I heard. However, given how widespread the issues with the new UO2s have become, I feel like these IO1s with strained motors could well follow. It's likely that this issue is only affecting units built within the last couple of years, since I filmed IO1s that were built in 2022, which all sounded fine when I filmed the year after the store's 2023 opening. I sadly can't really get video of the strained IO1 externally, since the toilet area is always pretty busy. Finally, even though they weren't originally going to be part of this video, I think it's worth giving Goodwind a special mention, as they also seem to be exhibiting some issues with the brushless pebble dryers. I've seen 2 or 3 pebbles at a KFC that opened in 2022 fail recently, with one due to the power supply and the other because of the sensor or controller. Also, I've heard a couple of reports about the fairly new pebbles at Trafford Centre not doing so well, whether I can't confirm it since I've not personally seen it. There's just one video showing one of these dryers being bagged over, and another replacement of branded as Diversity of all things. I guess we'll just have to see where things go for Goodwind, but hopefully they don't get too bad, as the Pebble is a pretty revolutionary hand dryer which has a lot to offer. So now this brings us to the point we're at now, where almost every major hand dryer company, including some that were renowned for making great hand dryers, have all declined to the point where I wouldn't really be able to recommend them. The only long life options really left now are the Mediclex MacFlow Plus, Dyson HUO2, and hopefully the WorldDrive AirDri V2, however the true reliability of this is not known yet. I really hope that things get better for the industry in the future, but I sadly predict they'll just get worse. Now this is the end of what's a fairly depressing but necessary video to make. I know that people who work at some of the mentioned hand dryer companies watch my videos, so I'd be very interested if any of you reached out to clarify anything that I've mentioned about your company in this video. With that, thanks for watching everyone, and goodbye.